Hey, Shalom, Meshra. I want to start off source by giving all praise to Yahweh Hashem, Yahushua, Hashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS and honesty, brothers doing the work in truth, with sincerity. So I'm just going to be a quick one on, I was meditating on the fact that, look, the Lord raised people from the dead, right? From the dead. If he can do that, there's nothing that's impossible. He can do anything, right? So this is just a couple of scriptures I want to get into, and just also basically a thing on faith, right? If the Lord can do that, if the Lord can, raise a man from the dead, then, he can deliver a man from hunger, right? Because the times we're coming into, it's like, when you read when you read Daniel's the 12th chapter, Joel the 2nd chapter talks about a time like never before seen on earth, right? One of the things that's going to be scarce is food, right? But then you have this in Isaiah 65:13. It says, therefore thus saith Yahweh, behold, my servants shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. Behold, my servants shall drink, but ye shall be thirsty. Behold, my servants shall rejoice, but ye shall be ashamed. Right, basically going into the fact that, hey, the Lord's men are going to be taken care of, right? But the aim of this video is to, in terms of, you as yourself, to always remember that the Lord raised people from the dead, and therefore, feeding you is nothing, right? So it says John 11:38. It says, Yahushua therefore again groaning himself. This is the story of Lazarus. The whole chapter is more or less talking on it. It's a good read as well, right? It says, Yahushua therefore again groaning in himself cometh to the grave. It was a cave and a stone lay upon it. Yahushua said, take away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead, Lazarus, saith unto him, Lord, by this time he stinketh, for he hath been dead 4 days. Right, so basically Lazarus had been dead for 4 days, right? Your body was starting to decompose, right? But what does it say there? It says, verse 40 says, Yahushua saith unto her, said I not unto thee that if thou wouldest believe, thou shouldest see the glory of the Most High? Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid, and Yahushua lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me, and I knew that thou hearest me always, but because of the people which I stand by, I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. Right? It says, and when he thus had spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave cloths, and his face was bound with about with a napkin. Yahushua saith unto him, loose him and let him go. Right? So basically, he had been stinking. He had, right? If you imagine the mummy, the typical cartoon representation. Someone wrapped up in grave cloths and all of that. And basically, he was dead, right? And they will say, look, man, he's stinking by now. What do you mean open up the cave? But, to showcase the power of the Lord, right? He was raised. And I'll read that in verse 4. It says, when Yahushua heard that, he said, this sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of the Most High, that the Son of God, as in Yahushua himself, might be glorified thereby, right? So this was to show the power of the Lord, right? And I'll get another one as well. It says Luke 8:40. It says, and it came to pass that when Yahushua was returned, the people gladly received him, for they were all waiting for him. It says, and behold, there came a man named Jairus, right? Or Jairus, I don't know how you pronounce that. It says, and he was ruler of the synagogue, and he fell down at Yahushua's feet and besought him that he would come into his house, for he had one only daughter about 12 years of age, and she lay dying. But as he went, the people thronged him. Right? So I think that just basically means he was, he was crowded. Right, he was crowded by a lot of people. Says, and the woman having an issue of blood 12 years, which had spent all her living upon physicians, neither could be healed of any. Right, It says, came behind him and touched the border of his garment, and immediately her issue of blood stanched. Basically, he says, to stand, using various applications, abide, point, bring, continue, covenant, establish, hold up, to go, stand, place, put, set, bid. Basically, she's not bleeding, right? It says, and Yahushua said, who touched me? When all denied, Peter, and they that were with him said, Master, the multitude throng thee and press thee, and says, who touched me? Basically, like, look, this is crowded, this is heavily crowded place. What do you mean, who touched you? Right? It says, what do you call it? Verse 46, and Yahushua said, somebody hath touched me, for I perceive that virtue has gone out of me. Right, so basically felt that spiritual power, man. It was like, whoa, I just used some spiritual power there. What's going on? It says force, especially miraculous powers, G1411, dynamis. Right, so where were we? It says, and when the woman saw that she was not hid, she came forth trembling, and falling down before him, she declared unto him before all the people for what cause she had touched him, and how she was healed immediately. And he said unto her, daughter, be of good comfort, thy faith hath made thee whole, go in peace. And while he yet spoke, there came one of the ruler of the synagogue's house, saying to him, thy daughter is dead, trouble not the master. I says, but when Yahushua heard it, he said unto him, saying, fear not, believe only, and she shall be made whole. That's another thing, because you have all of these examples of old, but it's, what examples do you see? That they had faith, right? They had faith that the Lord will solve the issue that they had at hand, right? It says, but when Yahushua heard it, he answered, saying, fear not, believe only, right? Have faith, basically, and she shall be made whole. And when he came into the house, he suffered no man to go in, save Peter and James and John, and the father and the mother of the maiden. Right, it says, and all wept and beheld, but he said, weep not, she is not dead, but sleepeth. Right, it says, and they laughed him to scorn, knowing that she was dead. Right, it says, and he put them all out, and took her by the hand, calling, saying, maid, arise. And her spirit came again, and she rose straightway. And he commanded to give her meat, and her parents were astonished, but he charged them that they should tell no man what was done. Right, so, once again, Lord raised someone up from the dead. Right, they she was so dead. People were like, what's this going on about? She's dead. What do you mean you're gonna raise? You can imagine. What do you mean you're gonna raise her from the dead? Right, but Yahushua did that. So if the Lord can do all of that, amen. Whatever trouble it is that you're going through, whatever spiritual gift, right, that you inquire of the Lord, if it's of benefit for the body, if it's if that's what the Lord wants to bestow onto you, it's not beyond his power to do so. Right? All you gotta do is have faith. Right? And obviously you don't ask, for dumb shit. You don't ask for things above your measure. Right? Obviously you can, scriptures talk about covet to prophesy, of course. Nothing wrong with that. Alright, but you don't ask to be like, oh Lord, make me an apostle. You got to be serious. Right? You got to have faith. Right? What do you call it? And so I read that. So it's Romans 4:3 says, is this not what I wanted? 4:15, I think it is. Is it Romans? It's like completely forgotten what that was. 15:4, Slack. It's Romans 15:4. It says, for whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. Right? So you read these scriptures, you're supposed to have hope and be comforted, right? That if you do end up in a dodgy predicament, that you know that the Lord is going to deliver you from that. All you got to do is have faith, right? Several times your faith will be tested, right? But that's the thing, is do you pass the test, right? And also it says, Sirach 2:10 says, look at the generations of old, and see, did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded, or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken, or whom did he ever despise that called upon him? Right? And then I'm just going to end with some scriptures on faith. Right, it says Habakkuk 2 and 4 says, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him. You know, I was referencing Esau, right? And then it goes on to say, but the just shall live by his faith. Right, so the just, you know, which we aim to be, right? We live by the faith of the Lord, right? A second Maccabees 7, the whole chapter is, you know, that's a beautiful account of faith, right? It says 2 Corinthians 5 and 7 says, you know, straight to the point, for we walk by faith, not by sight, right? Because sometimes you don't know what path, what direction the Lord has for you, but you walk it in faith, right? In the hope that by walking you will be saved, right? And Ephesians 2 and 8 says, for by grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of the Most High, right? So if you know, to even have faith, the Lord has to have chosen you to give it to you, right? So what faith you do have, you have to be grateful, because there's a load of people in the world who don't have faith, right? And yeah, I'll read 2 Peter 2 and 9 says, the Lord knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptation, and to reserve the unjust unto the day of judgment to be punished, right? But the point is, the Lord knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptation, right? It's not beyond the Lord to to help you out. You look at the case of Elijah, you know, Lord fed him with ravens, right? And just literally as the water ran out, right, the Lord helped him out. Then he moved, to another location with a woman and her son, right? And that woman basically took care of Elijah, right? You know, through miraculous circumstances. I think she had, a little bit of flour and a little bit of oil, and that was literally her last serving. And basically the Lord had it whereby the flour never finished, right? And the oil never finished, right? So you got to read these stories and think, man, look, the Lord's got me. Right, the Lord's got me. So with that, Lord's will you are edified. Until the next time, I'll say shalom.